Hi, my name is Terry Van Vallis. I'm going to cover a time management course I developed. And here's the agenda. Overview, course description, course expectations, learning objectives of Module 1, Activity 1, overview of Activity 1. So let's move on to overview. So I work in the Office of Academic Support at a four-year college, and I work with adult learners. And a lot of these adult learners struggle with managing time. I refer these students to resources that tend to be text-heavy, they might be video-based only, or there's a test that they have to assess their time management skills. I find that these resources are not geared to the adult learner or offer any authentic learning experience, which is supporting any interaction with their peers. In conducting some research, I found there was many studies and evaluations that supported training type programs for time management, and the conclusions were that it definitely impacted student success. And not only was it successful for these students, but it was necessary and beneficial. So some of the goals I strive to achieve with this particular course, and they're supported by several learning theories, adult learning theories, constructism, and connectism, was to provide the learners the freedom to self-select components which supported their need, interest, and goals. I thought that was very important. Offered and supported an authentic learning experience where learners can bring their own experience and understanding. Again, that was very important. Otherwise, what's the motivation to take the time management course? I wanted to support interaction with other peers, and I definitely wanted them to have the opportunity to identify time management challenges and behaviors, meaning they created the content instead of me throwing a lot of content at them. And I think by creating the content and creating these activities that created the content, I should say, would heighten their awareness of how they allocate time. So I'm going to move on to the course description. So once students enter into the time management course, this is the page that they're going to see. And as you can see, they can navigate, at the top with the tabs. They have a welcoming page. It describes briefly what the time management course is about, and then what the expectations are of the learner. And of course, then there's a listing of announcements, expectations, grading, and so on and so forth. So let's talk about expectations. When the learner clicks on the particular link to go to this expectations page, they're not only going to see what is expected of them, but they're also going to see what is expected of the instructor. And as you can see, there's several bullets for both. I'm going to cover learning objectives now. Now this particular page is specific to Module 1, Activity 1. And so the learning objectives are specific for that particular area of Module 1. Now this particular page gets into a little bit more detail for the learner. So they had the overview, now they get into the specifics of Activity 1. And as you can see, Activity 1 has 3 parts, and there's many pages that the student has to view to complete this particular activity. So I'm going to give you an overview of Activity 1, and there's 3 parts to Activity 1. So the first part of Activity 1 is View Stories. And the learner will see this particular page, what they will do, what the objectives are of this particular part, and how they will be graded. Part 2 is set up the exact same way. Again, the learners will get a description of the particular part, what is expected of them, as well as the objectives, and how they will be graded. And then Part 3, which is the final part, again, set up the exact same way. So let's look at the content. In Part 1, the learners are expected to listen to 3 stories, and this is where they would find those 3 stories. Here's the links, as well as I provided another link to some additional resources. As you can see, there's very limited content here. Again, the student, the learner, will be creating their own content. So the rubrics, or the grading. This is listed by activity, the expectations for each activity, and how the grading is going to be earned. And any feedback for each activity will be addressed on this particular form. And lastly, let's look at the survey. At the end of the activity, students will receive a survey link. It has 10 questions. They're multiple choice. They have the option to provide additional feedback beyond just a multiple choice. I'm looking for their experience as far as their learning experience. I'm looking for their accessibility to the course, the content, the links, the tools that they used. Was I as an instructor accessible? Was my feedback encouraging, and did it help grow and enhance their learning? And as I mentioned earlier in the presentation, here are the list of the references that support a time management course.